is the greatest moment in my life.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Hello. How we doing, mate? You good?
Yes, I'm doing really well. How are you, sir?
Mate, I smell fantastic.
I thought you was going to say terrible. Then. I
No.
smell horrific.
No, I've not long got out the shower. And of course, it was my birthday a couple of days ago.
Oh, yeah, it's your birthday shower once a year.
So I got all stuff. The wife's doing this thing where she's... I won't give out too many details because she's not just gone quite live yet, but she's getting all these smellies in for this project she's working on. So I've used a bit of that. I got some new stuff to put in my beard. Oh, mate, I wish you could smell me, Mags. I smell amazing.
I can believe it, sir. You look amazing.
Oh, thanks, bud. It's the beard oil, isn't it?
It's the age as well. Like 47
it's the age.
Years old.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's Monday night, so we know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. And I'm going really, really slowly this week because I fucked it up last week and I don't want to do it again. Wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from, this is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, the original, the best, the first, a Radio Tekkers production. I am Si, and with me, as always, is the offense to my defense. Yay, go sports. The Rams to my Bengals. That's right, NFL references. Look at me being topical.
The Rams won and the Bengals lost. I'm not the loser in this. Can't we all just say we had a good time?
Hang on. I said you were the Rams to my Bengals. Do you even listen to this? Do you even listen when I do this?
I phase you out when you go on your rants.
A podcaster who always insists on a shiny, clean helmet before entering the end zone. Mr. Mags, how are we doing this week, sir?
Definitely put a hood on that nud, I suppose. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Tired. It's been a long, hectic weekend, but how much fun do we have on this show? So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me too. And hopefully I will have no internet concerns like I did last week. No?
Get your bets in the chat. How many times does Saab blame me for his internet issues?
Yeah, it's weird because it looks to me like your end is going wrong. I mean, we were talking about it before we came on air, weren't we? It looks to me like your end is going wrong. My signal still says full, and you're the one freezing when I look at it. So I'm going, Max, is your internet all right? But in reality, when I play it back and I edit the audio version, I can't hear me saying, Max, is your internet all right? Because it's me that's not all right. So
you could almost say that Virgin Media was a pimple dick.
Oh, absolute dicks, mate. I'm at odds with them at the moment, but that's a story for another day. But we are hardwired in this evening. Everything's been rebooted, plugged in properly, etc., etc. So hopefully we will be back to the times when I didn't have internet problems and all was good with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Magsy, so then, good week, bad week?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy. UFC was on pretty late, but exciting. A really good show. The return of football. So Radio Tekkers, we did a double barrel. We did a Saturday game and a Sunday game. Had really good fun doing that. Me and Matt just having a laugh. We took Tekkers to some new laws in terms of non-football content. But yeah, we had a great fun. Yeah.
Excellent stuff, mate. Excellent stuff. I hurt myself this week. And I've been told.
I don't know if I want to know.
Well, I've been told by the wife that I need to tell this story because it made her laugh so much. I don't know what it was that started it off, but there was, you know, crossing your legs, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you
aware
sit,
of it.
Yeah, like back when you were a kid in the school assemblies and whatnot, you used to cross your legs.
Like almost like a yoga position.
Yeah, so but your feet are like underneath your other leg, aren't they? Right?
Yeah.
But you do it like there was something that I don't know what it was. Shah might say in the chat. There was something that sort of got me and Shah thinking about putting your leg on the top, if that makes sense. So you're right.
A proper yoga position.
Okay, is that what it is? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sit cross-legged and then you untuck the bottom leg and put that on top of the other leg. That's a yoga.
Yeah. So like your right heel is on top of your left thigh, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sat on the sofa, right? And Shah's like, look, I can do that easy. And I was like, well, I'll have a go. So I got my right leg and I put it up on my left leg. No problem at all. Right? Put it down. Got my left leg. Put my left leg on top of my right leg. No problem at all. And I'm thinking, well, that was really, really easy. I must be more flexible than I realised. I wonder if I can do both at the same time. So I put the one leg up, but then I found that I couldn't grab, because I can't move my own leg up. I got to grab it physically with my arm to do it. I can't just swing my leg up, right? So the reason obviously I've done the first part, I've realised I can do it. It's just getting my leg up to that position, and then it'll just drop into place, you know.
Okay.
So I couldn't quite reach because my other leg was up, and I got a big belly in the way and all that sort of stuff, right? So I sat on the edge of the sofa, and I'm thinking, well, Sharon actually said, "Oh, she's going to sit on the floor. It's easier," and she's all carried on and gone on with it, like. And I thought, well, if I lower myself down to the floor,
here we go.
Right, if I lower myself down to the floor, the leg that's not the leg that's not tucked in, okay, that the floor will naturally bring that leg up to where I want it to be, and I can just pop it in place, and I can put one hand on the sofa, lower myself down, and I'm in that position then. I mean, looking back in hindsight, I don't quite know how I'd have got out of it, but I've been in that position. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. So I start lowering myself off the sofa, slip a little bit, but I'm okay, grab the leg, go down, and there's this noise, Max. I kid you not, it was like a gunshot going off. The animals all jumped and everything. It was just like this biggest almighty crack. There's like two little cracks and a massive crack on the side of my right knee. And I've never felt pain like that in years. It was like somebody had shot me.
That ligament or cartilage damage.
I don't know. It just went and it was so loud, like really, really loud. Like I said, the animals jumped. The wife was like, "Oh my god!" and then started laughing. And this is where,
brilliant. I hope she filmed it. That should be a TikTok on the Chair Wrestling page.
No, sadly, it was not filmed, and it's not going to happen again. But she was honestly roaring. I've never, like when you're laughing so much, your belly hurts, and there's no actual noise coming out. Mm-hmm. The old silent laugh. She did that for like 3-4 minutes before she calmed down to the point where she could actually make a noise whilst laughing.
How long before she actually asked if you were okay?
I don't think she still has.
Because she just doesn't give a shit.
But it was a concern like yesterday because I start a new job Monday. I'm thinking, oh shit, if I've done myself a mischief and I can't go into,
limping into work.
Yeah. Thankfully, I'm okay.
Rolling in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Thankfully, I'm okay. I went into work. I went to the shop earlier, and going out walking in the cold, I could feel it, and I was a bit like, oh, that's quite uncomfortable actually. But it's not as bad as it was. So I'm thinking, I got till next Monday, so I should be all right.
Yeah, get it wrapped. Keep some heat on it. Hopefully, it'll recover. But you're old as fuck. You are not in the best of health. You are not. Oh. That is not the thing for you. That is not your type of yoga. You stick to down dog and warrior 2 and tree positions. Don't try doing leg gymnastics.
I don't even know what any of that means. Tree. I was a tree in a school play. Back in the
that was the pinnacle of your acting career.
Me and my mate I'm literally just a smidge below 6 foot, and my mate's the same height as me, and we've been this height since we were God knows how young we were. Even in junior school, we weren't this big in junior school, but we were big kids in junior school. So whenever there was a scene that's requiring, I don't know, a lamppost or a tree or something like that, right? That was my role. And they'd have
a road sign.
Yeah, and they'd have like, for the tree, for argument's sake, they'd have like the I don't know, sort of like the funny tissue paper stuff, but massive sheets of it,
like crepe paper.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. And they just wrap me up in the brown stuff. Right,
and no effort whatsoever.
No. I literally just wrap me up and put a bit of tape on it, and then give me some green stuff to hold in my hands. And I'd literally just stand there, with my arms in the air, and I'd be a tree for however long this scene would be.
Wow, classy.
I was a good fucking tree, though, mate. I brought depth to the character. I'll tell you that now.
Think like a tree.
Something else I want to quickly bring to everyone's attention. We've had conversations in the past about my son, about how I play tricks on him and wind him up, and how he can, as much as he is my boy, I love him to bits, he can be quite dopey.
Okay.
We found out yesterday, or last night, whilst watching the Super Bowl, that until very, very recently, and I'm talking incredibly recently, my 18-year-old son, for years, thought that when somebody went into the WWE Hall of Fame and they were given a ring, he thought they were given a wrestling ring.
I mean, the may do as well.
And he said the one that really sticks out. This shows how long ago this has been going on, for how long he's had this thought process. He explains that he can specifically remember Mick Foley going in, whether he watched it with me or watched it on a rerun on the network. And he thought to himself, how's that old man going to get his wrestling ring home after the event?
Well, surely they'd deliver it.
Well,
You wouldn't expect him to walk out like with all the frame. I mean, the more pertinent question is, where would Ric Flair keep all three of his wrestling rings?
He'd have to sell him to pay off his wives, wouldn't he? So that's not an issue.
Brilliant.
You know?
Brilliant.
Oh, Magsy, should we have a quick jump into the chat before we get on to our usual segments?
Yes, sir. And the chat is on fire, as always, this week. Matt coming in very early. I think he commented last Tuesday in preparation for this show. He's very punctual this week. Let's hope he stays awake and is able to stick around for the volley. We'll see. Dan Griffin in the chat, followed by other Council of Dan member, Scottish Dan. Sharon in the chat, it's Monday night, you know what that means. And she's also she's going to be sending, sending it me. Mrs. Magsy will be the one that used it a gift package, so that'll be absolutely
Oh, there you go. So next time you kiss, when that arrives, the next time you kiss your wife, you'll be thinking of me because she'll smell like me.
I mean, I already have to pick the air out of my teeth anyway, so no difference there. Matt, being pedantic as per, corrected me for saying bonsoir instead of bonjour. And then the chat, just having a jolly old time between themselves. Dan saying the shiny clean helmet made me laugh so hard I hurt my back. Well, try a yoga position. Maybe like try and put both your ankles above each other. That side, it clearly worked from him. Matt saying he got 3-1 odds. He'll give on SARS internet going. I mean, that's worth taking up. I might have to slide a bet in his in there. At Dan Griffin from Sharon, you sound almost as old as Sar. I mean, I'm a year older than you, aren't I, as well?
Yeah, like a year and a couple of days, isn't it?
But I don't look it. I've aged very well. Jesus.
Yeah, righto.
Dan comes back, says I've put my back out over a week or bringing the shopping in. I was housebound for 4 days from bringing the shopping in. What the fuck did you order? We need some more. We need some more on that.
Was that the standard man thing though? All the bags at once. I'm not giving in.
Yeah. This is one trip. I'm only doing one trip. I'm not going back.
Tins of dog food, cases of beer, bottles of milk, all the heavy shit. You know.
Yeah, I'm very much like that. Sharon, laughing at you and nearly peed her pants because of how ridiculous you are, and saying, "Is this appropriate?" Indian style, they call it in America. I'm assuming it means the way you were sitting. Did Sar do a one-man nutcracker? Did you damage the family jewels, sir?
No, because literally my leg went crack before it reached the floor, and I just kind of screamed. And I don't actually remember unraveling myself, so to speak, but there was this almighty crack, and by the time I hit the floor, I wasn't tied up anymore. So
then we've got Scottish Daddy saying, Kevin Nash feels your pain. Jesus Christ,
he'd make a good tree.
Well, that, and also he's got legs made out of Weetabix.
Yeah.
Get yourself on DDP Yoga. Now, I've actually got the full collection of DDP Yoga if you want me to fire it across to you.
Okay.
It's not your mum's yoga.
It's not.
At Dan Griffin, no, I don't know. He's got some pretty strong anti-vax opinions. Yeah, but he's also doing pretty well to say he's like 95 years old, still looking as good as he does. And then, yeah, pretty much the rest of the CWF just having an amazing chat between themselves. I absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
Great stuff. And again, as always, we thank you so much for everyone for joining us, for getting involved on Twitter, voting in the poll, which obviously we'll come to in a bit, and so on. Dan Griffin there giving us more info about the shopping incident. What we got there, Mags?
There we go. So he said he did carry it all in at once, so he's made the typical mistake. Weekly shop for 3 people. He had to awkwardly swerve to avoid his toddler niece, pulled every muscle in his lower back. Jesus Christ, that That's one of the worst as well, though, the back, because even you feel like you're almost a robot in the way you have to move. It's ridiculous. You've got to compensate for everything. At least if it's a leg, you can kind of hobble along. But with your back, it's just every movement is painful. So I feel for you there, sir.
Yeah, I fully sympathise. I've mentioned before on the show that I've had quite bad back problems. Must be about 10, 11 years ago it started. So I fully sympathise with that totally. It's horrific. And you don't realise until you're suffering with it, and it sounds a silly statement really, but you don't realise how much you actually use your back. Even just something as simple as breathing in and out was painful. Yeah. You know, and anything at all, just, but really
witnessing somebody with back pain is hilarious. So there's
you're such a bastard.
There's two sides to every coin.
God, you're such a nasty git sometimes, aren't you? Eh? Such a nasty
I'm
git.
leaving it at this comment. The worst part about back pain is to struggle to wipe one's arse. That's where you need a B-day, sir. Get a B-day.
I'll tell you what, right? Me and Dan actually messaged about this, believe it or not, arse wiping. But it weren't just like we were having a conversation about wiping arses. It was to do with him having a bad back.
Have a look at this side. Does that look normal to you?
So when my back was bad, I used to have to. I physically couldn't. I mean, I'm right-handed. You know, I physically couldn't position my arm and hand in the right area to commit to a full.
This is a wrestling show, folks.
Totally. Yeah.
You will not get this on Fightful Overbooked. Let me tell you.
So, have you ever tried to? I'll tell you what. I encourage everyone to go and do it today, tomorrow, when your next. Should we say when your next movement is? Shall we say? Go and wipe your arse with the wrong hand. Just give it a go. It's fucking weird. It's really strange. It's even worse than trying to write with your wrong hand. It is strange, man.
What I mean, is this a Radio Tekkers watch along live stream? The conversation we're having is not appropriate.
Well,
as Dan, Scottish Danny says, this is cherry. We want 4K videos in slow-mo of you struggling to wipe your ring piece.
We do not want videos. We do not want pictures. You know, in fact, to be honest, I probably don't really want any feedback. In fact, forget I said anything.
No.
Okay. Kevin Nash.
That's the CWF homework for this week. We want you to recount. That's next week's non-wrestling topic. I'm calling it now. We want your experiences of wiping your ass with your gimpy hand.
Your gimpy hand.
That's what it's called. That's how I've always referred to it. That the hand that my right hand might as well be useless. I can't do anything with it. I'm the most left-handed person that you'll ever know. So this is the gimp hand because it just might as well not be there.
I didn't know you were left-handed.
Yeah.
I suppose why would I?
Well, you've never asked, and that's why you're my third favourite podcast wife. I don't pay attention.
I don't think I've really ever noticed your hands either, because when we only ever speak like this. There they are. We only ever speak like this. You're kind of like Davros from Doctor Who, aren't you? Because we don't know what goes on below sort of nipple height. We don't know what's there. So
I also get accused of having no legs.
Yes,
from Five Nerds Go quite regularly. I do have legs. They don't work very well. I've abused them with being run over and swing incidents. But yeah, they're still attached by, I think, hopes and dreams.
That's what you should do when we get through to have this year's Halloween special, Maxie. That should be your fancy dress. You should dress up as Davros and
just legs. Just
a pair of legs.
Yeah.
just literally a pair. So your head would be sort of in the middle of the legs. So where you're talking out of?
Well, would it be brown or would it be yellow? Who knows?
Which hand would you? No, never mind.
It's big enough. It's big. It's about the same size-ish. Yeah, I can pull it off.
Dear me. Magsy, should we get to something chirpy or something that makes me cross?
I think we need to balance this out. That's been absolutely hilarious first 15 minutes. But you have got something you want to say. So shall we go for the pimple dick for this week?
Yes, let's.
Pimple dick alert!
Oh, a teeny weeny.
Yes, indeed. Now, this is something that I don't want to spend masses of time on because of the timing of it, and the timing of our show means other people have covered it so much and spoke about it so much way before we've had an opportunity. Mm-hmm. However, it's something I am I really have to express a feeling upon, because I feel quite strongly about it. And as soon as I say this guy's name, people are going to know exactly where I'm going. Kurt Zuma, you are a piece of shit. You are an absolute piece of shit. Anyone who's unaware, and I can't see how anyone in our chat or listening to the audio version of the podcast later in the week would be unaware, but just in case, a video surfaced of a gentleman called Kurt Zuma, who is a footballer for West Ham United in the UK. He is filmed slapping, kicking, shoving, and just being generally vile to his cat and thinking it's bloody hysterical. Now, as everyone knows, in the last couple of years, I've become very, very attached to my cats. I've never had any interest in animals or cats or anything until Lemmy was born, and since then it's complete. And again, I guess it's an age thing. I've softened up loads. You know, I grew up with cats because my mum and dad used to breed them for shows, so they were a nuisance to me. There were so many of them in the house. I mean, at one stage there was 20 odd cats in different areas, different cat pens, different. They had a massive run outside. They had a fantastic life, but there's just so many of them. I wasn't a big fan. Now it's different. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw this poor cat coming up to its owner and getting literally slapped across its mush, it broke my heart. Because that cat doesn't understand what's going on. It's horrific behaviour against a defenceless animal that you could really cause some serious damage to. Absolutely freaking disgusting behaviour. Terrible behaviour. Again, like I said, it's been covered left, right and centre by various other people. So West Ham United needs to do more, I think, to deal with the situation, because he played the following week and the following game, and I think that's disgusting. I think the FA, even going above that, the police, the government, whoever, need to step in and just get this dealt with, because that is disgusting. And when you have someone in the public eye, such as Zuma, if he behaves that way on a video with thousands of followers, he needs to be held accountable, because if he doesn't, other people are going to think that that's okay to behave that way.
Yeah.
You know?
I 100% agree. And it's a horrific in any kind of scenario, but what makes it more, makes me more angry about it is that it was clearly done for entertainment. Now, I am not at all condoning hitting any animal because you're angry at it or because it's done something wrong. That's not how animals learn. But that he was doing that for the entertainment of the kids and the entertainment of his brother filming it. It's ridiculous. He's and as Dan has said in the chat, he's an absolute piece of shit. Sharon, there's a special place in hell for him. And I'll even go as far to say West Ham have disappointed me with their stance in this. Now, the guy who filmed the video was Kurt's brother. He played for a club called Dagenham. They released him because of the fallout from this video. He didn't play again. I was not aware
of that. And I've got a special hatred for Dagenham and Redbridge. So the fact that they've done that, and that's good. I'm glad about that. And for me to say that about Dagenham is a big deal, because I fucking hate Dagenham.
but for West Ham to play Zuma, I think they only fined him 2 weeks' wages. It's a slap on the wrist for a millionaire footballer on hundreds of thousands a week. That is an absolute slap on the wrist. And the only reason he didn't play this past weekend is because his own fans were booing him. And they claimed that he'd taken ill. Absolutely wasn't taken ill. He was on that team sheet, and Matt and myself had to change it on the fly because it got replaced with minutes of the match before the match kicked off. Yeah, it's horrific the way it's been dealt with. It's horrific. And another thing that has been quite upsetting about it for me is the number of footballers coming out and using whataboutism to kind of justify it.
Yeah.
So a West Ham player, and I don't want to throw the name out because I'm not 100% sure which West Ham player it is, but essentially they were asked whilst they were leaving the ground what they thought of Kurt Zuma and his actions, and instead of rightly chastising Kurt and saying this is not acceptable, they went into a rant about how people who are racist aren't punished. And I get the point. People who are racist should be absolutely punished.
Michael Antonio.
Is that who it was? I
was,
thought
that
it was
the next thing I was going to get to. My note in front of me says Michael Antonio can get in the fucking bin as well, because it's almost a diversion from what he's done.
Yeah, it's whataboutism. That's the name for it.
I don't give a rat's ass if you're black, Chinese, white, grey, purple, orange. I don't freaking care. You know, it's irrelevant to me. If you hurt an animal, you're a piece of shit. And that's the thing that's being brought in front of us now on this charge. He's a piece of shit because he hurt an animal. Yeah. Any racism issues in football are separate to this. They should be dealt with severely and with like the most powerful punishments anyone can dish out. But that's not what we're looking at right now. And we're not looking at Zuma in this way because he's a black footballer. We're looking at Zuma in this way because he's a piece of shit who hurt a defenseless animal. And that's why he's up this week as being a pimple dick. He's a fucking asshole. He's a scumbag, and ultimately, as I mentioned, Max, it led to me getting in trouble in a little bit of hot water with Twitter this week.
Oh wow! So that was the reason you got your suspension. Was it?
Yes.
Did you at Kurt Zuma in a tweet?
Yeah. I saw the video, and I straight away tweeted him directly. And I you click on the name Kurt Zuma, and there's loads of people talking about it. I tagged him in the tweet. I directed it at him, which I'm guessing is where the thing happened. It's done. I'll edit a little bit because there's certain words in there that I don't think that I should say on this station. But I called him the C word. I called him a fucking scumbag and a piece of shit. That was it. Okay.
Twitter do be suspending people for the slightest swear words nowadays. It's ridiculous. Now,
this is the issue I have. And again, I don't want to get bogged down into this too much because we've still got plenty to talk about with the show that's more lighthearted than this. But when I received the notification that I was suspended for 12 hours and it said that I have to delete the tweet and so on, I was like, well, okay, but what for? No, I understand. It's abusive language. I mean, I use the C word. It's the worst of the worst, but I believe that's what the guy, he deserves worse than that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, it's a social media platform. I fully appreciate that there are regulations and so on. So I clicked on the terms and conditions, and there's reams and reams of it, pages and pages and pages as to what they said I had violated with this tweet. And I scrolled through it all, and there's nothing actually in that tweet that went against what they said I had done.
Okay.
It was all about, there was no reference to abusive language. There was no reference to certain swear words. And I read this 2 or 3 times because I wanted to really make sure. There was reference to race. If I was being in any way racist, there was reference to body shaming. There was references to, all the very nasty, vile behaviors that should warrant a certain aspect of damages, or should warrant a certain aspect of, repercussions for that behavior. Racism, sexism, homophobia, all those, the stuff that shouldn't happen, but sadly in certain corners of the internet and the world, it still does. Nowhere did it say in this 5 or 6 page stream thing that they sent me directly as the reason for my suspension, did it state anything about using certain swear words or being abusive.
Okay.
So
they normally blanket cover it with targeted harassment.
No, it didn't. I didn't have that on there.
Wow.
It literally, and that's what threw me, because I was expecting something like abusive. I was expecting something like you said, targeted harassment. I was expecting something like this because it is a generic thing you get sent out, but mine didn't. And that's what threw me. So I've actually emailed Twitter, and I probably won't get a response because they're fucking useless, but I've actually emailed Twitter to ask them to explain further, because I want to know exactly the specific reason why I got served with a suspension on Twitter. Because if they're putting it down to some form of other, ill behavior, then I want that explained, because that's not what happened at all. So
no, you called out a scumbag for doing scumbag moves.
Exactly,
ironic that the scumbag booting a cat was not was not suspended from Twitter.
Oh yeah, definitely. That puzzles me. And then you get other people as well who were familiar with these individuals who are quite well known in our circles for being pieces of shit and calling people names and treating people in vile ways. Nothing ever seems to happen to them either.
No.
Twitter's a bit ass backwards now, isn't it? Twitter's a bit ass backwards.
So it went from slating Kurt Zuma to just a commentary on social media in general.
Yes, there you go then. That's how highbrow and informative this show is, Mags.
It is.
So then, Magsy, shall we look at something a little bit more light-hearted, but probably also as ridiculous?
Let's do it.
The Hall of Lame. Indeed. What are we chucking in this week, Mags?
So this week, I want to throw in the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Oh.
So
with old Lex.
Well, Lex wasn't even the start of it. So back in 1991, Vince has had a lifelong obsession with bodybuilding. But in 1991, he wanted to compete with the International Federation for Bodybuilding. He started poaching high-level staff from that organisation, and he eventually created the World Bodybuilding Federation in 1991. He had an aim of kind of making bodybuilding as big as wrestling, where it was a huge deal, and he started promising that there would be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of prizes, trying to attract the big name bodybuilders into the company for exclusive deals. Didn't last very long. They held their inaugural championship, if you want to call it that, on June the 15th, 1991. It was a pay-per-view. Didn't get the best of reviews. And then they held the second one around about a year later. But there was something that happened in between that kind of put the kibosh on that second one. The steroid scandals that Vince was heavily involved in. So that second championship was a commercial flop. It cost an absolute fortune for WWE, and they only got 3,000 bars.
Wow.
So they essentially, Luger was brought in to kind of give it a little bit of pizzazz. He was meant to kind of be the face of the company. Didn't really pan off. The best we saw of Luger in the WBF was him struggling to drink a half pint of milk on camera whilst wearing a muscle shirt that was about 3 or 4 sizes too small for him. But yeah, the company essentially folded in the middle of 1992, so lasted just over a year. But Vince does this, he throws a hell of a lot of shit at the wall. Unfortunately, this one didn't stick. But yeah, this week's entrant from me is the World Bodybuilding Federation.
That's fantastic. And from that, we ended up with the narcissist Lex Luger and obviously all the Lex Express stuff and so on.
So yeah, what a tosser.
Oh, what a time to be alive that was. Magsy, I'm going back a couple of years earlier than that, but it still does involve people from WCW and some silliness. I would like to throw in to the Hall of Lame and throw into the deepest, darkest pit of the Hall of Lame just to get them as far away from everyone else as possible. In early 1989, there's some aspects of the NWA, WCW that were envious of the WWF. WWF was huge cartoon characters. Hogan was massive in 89, going into 90. Savage and all this sort of stuff. Larger than life characters, whereas the NWA was very much dingy, proper wrestling. As far in my view, the product in ring in 89 was far better than the other channel, but it wasn't attracting the youngsters so much. So the guy in charge of WCW at this time, a certain Mr. Fry, Kip Fry, he decided he was going to change things up a little bit, try and make things a little bit more WWF-esque, I suppose. I mean, one of these ideas included not at this exact moment in time, but included having Ric Flair cut his hair and play a character called Spartacus and so on.
Amazing.
That's the kind of thing we were looking at.
Amazing.
But one idea this individual had, and incidentally, Ric Flair was part of the booking committee at this time as well, apparently. I don't know how much influence he actually had, but he had a say, which makes it kind of ironic. He wanted he looked at the Bushwhackers, basically, a tag team who were the sheep herders, who were quite a serious, violent, aggressive, scary tag team, and they were hugely popular in the WWF in this period when they were as the Bushwhackers, as the cartoony, licking people and arms up and down and all that sort of nonsense. Not great to watch from a wrestling standpoint, but the kids loved them. That was kind of what WCW, the NWA, was looking to do. So they took a team, I believe they were called the Rock and Roll Rebels at one stage, who wrestled on small independents, never really became a big thing. They held a couple of tag titles on a few independent companies, and they decided to create what I think is potentially the worst tag team of all time. And this week I give to you the Ding Dongs. Now, for those of you that are unaware, oh my word, the Ding Dongs were basically dressed in complete bodysuits, orange bodysuits, so they look like freaking Morph off the Tony Hart program, wasn't it? Yeah. They look like Morph, the little plasticine men. They had bells drawn on to their costumes, and they had bells tied to their wrists. One of them had some on his knee pads, one of them had some on his ankles, and they used to carry a big bell around that they would hang on the turnbuckle. As a tag team, of course, they got their own corner. So when one of them was struggling in the ring, they would hopefully get the kids to encourage the other member of the Ding Dong to ring the bell, and apparently this would get the team member in the ring who was struggling. This would fire them up, a la hulking up, or the warrior shaking the ropes. Ringing this bell would fire them up. So that was the theory behind the Ding Dongs. However, one early match, potentially their debut, not the first time Size had his offering of a ding dong laughed at on Valentine's Day. Dan Griffin says in the chat, that is fantastic. Well done. And you're right, it's not. But anyway, that's a story for a different day. One of the first matches they had was on a Clash of Champions show, and the crowd hated them. They were openly booed, and it's JR on commentary is embarrassed, and you can tell he's not enjoying this whatsoever. There's another match on YouTube somewhere. I think it's a TV taping. I'll attach it to the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Lame tweets later on, where Paulie Dangerously is commentating with, I think, Jim Ross again, and he actually asks what their names are, to which the color commentator responds, the smaller guy, that's Ding. The other guy, his name is Dong. To which Paulie Dangerously delivers the brilliant line, because he's ripping the piss out of his team the whole way through the match. Paulie Dangerously delivers the brilliant line, okay, so we've got a little Ding and a large Dong. To which you can hear them both giggling like little kids and trying not to sort of break character on screen. But yeah, they didn't last very long. Very quickly, the booking committee and WCW realized this was an absolute mistake, an absolute disaster. And within, I think, a few months, they were done and dusted. But yeah, I give you the Ding Dongs. Go and look them up. You have to see it to believe it.
I mean, the stories I've heard is that they were actually going to be booked to become champions.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a lot of the other teams were a little bit upset with that because they were always working stiff.
Oh, that's a bad one. They were supposed to be, because the popularity that they thought they were going to get, they were going to start. There was ideas for orange Ding Dong T-shirts.
Jesus,
right?
Wet.
There was ideas for bells that the kids would hold in the crowd, and when the other guy rang, so say for example Ding was in the ring and the large Dong rang the bell on the outside, he would encourage the children to ring their merchandise Ding Dong bell on the outside as well. And they had big hopes for these guys to make them a lot of money and ultimately, I guess, potentially win the tag team championships.
How does a human being come up with the idea of people essentially dressed and named like dicks?
Yeah.
That they would sell bell merchandise to kids for them to encourage to dick charactered wrestlers.
Can you imagine being in the crowd? Can you imagine being in the crowd and all those kids ringing bells all the time? That drives me sodding mad.
And then you look in the ring and you go, I've come to a WCW show,
Yes,
an NWA show.
So there we go. Those are our entrants this week into the Chain Wrestling Hall of Lame. We have the WBF, Vince's efforts into bodybuilding that fell completely on its steroid-injected arse. And we have the WCW team, the Ding Dongs. Again, got to see them to believe it. It's beyond belief. As always, pictures of these images of the people who go into the Hall of Lame get tweeted out after the show if anyone wants to have a look. And I'll try and tag a match somewhere as well so you can have a little look at those. But yeah. No, probably no. In fact, I'm not going to be guilty of that. You go and look yourselves.
It's on your own head.
Yeah, just look at it on YouTube. It's not a good look. Oh, Magsy, shall we jump to Twitter, my friend, and have a look at what else we've got going on?
Yes, we shall, sir. Boom.
Okie doke. Our non-wrestling topic this week, considering it is Valentine's Day today, the day of recording, the day of being live, is Valentine's Day / romance kind of stories, I guess. Mm-hmm. Great, awful gifts.
And we got some bloody doozies. Mr. Griffin in the chat.
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin.
Oh, good, bad dates, romantic disasters, great romantic stories, all that sort of stuff. So we'll have a quick run through Twitter. I'll go through them in the order they arrived into us again, Mr. Mags. Mm-hmm. We will start with J.A. at 80s and 90s Wrestling on Twitter.
There we go.
Excellent stuff. He says, oh, hang on, have I got that right? Professional as ever. Look at this. I was new to the dating game. I took my then girlfriend to Burnley away with Wolves. It was a Tuesday night and freezing. Now we are happily married of 10 years this year. We won 1-0. Worst of all, I thought I was splashing out instead of just getting flowers.
Brilliant. I mean, to be fair, the ticket was 18 quid. So
yeah,
if he bought two, yeah, exactly. So he's done well there. That's a great gift. I mean, versus Wolves, it could have been a better game, but you play the card that you were dealt. I think Jar's done a great job there.
Yeah.
No wonder she married him. She must have thought, this is the man for me. A cold, wet Tuesday on the turf. Wow. He loves me. He really loves me.
It. Taking me to Turf Moor. Oh, my word. That's it, eh? That's every lady's dream. I'm amazed me and Sharon are still together because I've not took her to Turf Moor yet.
Well, I mean, if she rocks up these ends, we'll double date going to Turf Moor.
That sounds fantastic. Sharon, let us know in the chat. You up for that, yeah? Double date with Mr. Mags and Mrs. Mags going to Turf Moor? Watch Burnley play? I mean, it'll be championship football because it won't be till next year we're going. But,
rude.
Dan Griffin in the chat and on Twitter here, our good friend of the show.
Let's get ready for this.
Brilliant. At Dan Griffin 21. He says here, he did actually pretext this as well with, it's quite depressing. I don't have to read it out if you don't want to, but it's like, no, I'm going to.
Yeah, because this is depressing for you and hilarious for us.
Oh, mate, a little bit. My entire love life is a car crash, he says here. Some highlights. His first girlfriend, when he was 18, cheated on him with one of his mates. I think we've all been there, haven't we, at some point?
Yeah.
When you got that social circle and when you're young and, you know, some people are sort of with somebody and then they're with somebody else the next week, I guess. Mm-hmm. So... he said the girl he was seeing once used his credit card without permission, stealing money from him.
Oof, that's grim.
Yeah, that's not a reflection on you, my friend. That's a reflection on her. She is bad news. You know. Most recently got kicked to the curb so an ex of his could get back together with her pregnant ex. So is this this lady who's kicked you to the curb has got back with her pregnant ex, so she swings both ways, is that right?
I'm sure he'll clear that up in the chat, but that's a sentence that you read it and it makes sense. Yeah. But fitting the parts together, kind of dumped. So give us a bit of clarity on that one, Dan.
Yeah, if you would, please, mate, if you would. Dan continues. There was also the woman I met while she was working at a bar. Always a good place to meet the ladies, I find, Magsy.
Well, yeah.
They hit it off. She gave me her number and then stood me up every time we arranged to meet. But she'd come into my work to see me and didn't skimp on the PDAs.
So public displays of affection.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So I was confused as fuck because I was still getting stood up all the time. Turned out she was using me as an ego boost because her ex left her not long before we met. This went on for weeks. I wonder why I have trust issues. Yeah, see, again, mate, it's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on them.
That's definitely not a Dan issue. That's definitely a her issue. And scumbag move. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, it's the way of the world. Both men and women do that rebound thing. And unfortunately, people do get caught in the crossfire. But yeah, that's not a reflection on you whatsoever, sir.
Yeah, of course not, mate. Of course not. We love you.
Well,
you know, we all love you.
You're all
what do
right.
you mean, well? You're a bit nasty tonight, mate. You're a bit of an edge to you.
I tweeted him saying that we had his back at all times, so he knows I love him. He knows I do.
Oh, Scottish Danny at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter, good friend of the show. He says here, 3 years ago, me and the missus got a takeaway. The delivery was 30 minutes late. 3 years ago for Valentine's Day, obviously.
No, it's just a random day.
Yeah.
No, 1 November.
It was a Tuesday. And I said to myself, I'm feeling peckish, lady. What shall we eat? The delivery was 30 minutes late and the pizza was cold. The missus kicked off big time and it all ended with Mr. Takeaway Man angrily protesting from the safety of his own car for an hour with a scowl on his face. Apparently, the cheeky bugger, he continues here, wanted an extra £5 too, as well as paying for the cold pizza that was, 30 minutes late. Mrs. told him and the pizza to go piss up a rope, which is a saying I've not heard before, and that really tickled me when I first read it. Go piss up a rope.
I've never heard of that. I've literally never heard that before.
He waited in his car, speaking to his boss on loudspeaker. After he left, they just ordered the McDonald's. Fair enough.
Brilliant. And then he says the pizza probably ended up like Walter White's out of Breaking Bad, which is a brilliant, brilliant image.
Oh, see, I want pizza now. I'm actually really, really hungry. I don't know if my microphone's picking it up. My belly is literally going all the time since we pressed record. My belly's been rumbling like loads.
Maybe it wasn't a good idea talking about Valentine's Day dates.
Yeah, I want pizza. Anyway. Michael Rag on Twitter at Raggy89. Hello, sir. He says here, a few years back, I broke up with my fiance because I had to work. So at the time, he was a duty manager in a famous British pub chain. And as manager, you have to work certain holidays. He was drawn out to work Valentine's Day. Thought we would spend it together the day after. He said, no, they didn't live together, but he thought the day after, when he wasn't working, he would spend time with his partner. Told her he was working, and she said, that's okay, cool. Thought that he would be. He then gets a phone call mid-shift asking where all her presents are. Told her I would give them her tomorrow, but she was more bothered about presents than me, so he broke it off. Okay, fair enough.
That's fair. I mean, clearly she was only after the presents.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
And you had got... the concern is you got to the point of being engaged to this woman, seeing as she was your fiance, and it took not getting some Valentine's Day gifts on Valentine's for the argument to kick off to the point where you broke up with her. That's a little bit concerning. But he did say, after you asked him if he kept the receipts, abso-fucking-lutely. So he got his money back. Win-win. Win-win.
Yeah, that's it. I had a friend who I knew mainly through football, really, but I've known him for decades, who he had sort of like an on-again, off-again girlfriend, and he would purposely break up with her. When it came to the sort of time we were going out for a drink for my birthday, which was the 12th of February, he would call it off of her. And then he would get back with her on the 15th, 16th, just so he didn't have to get her a Valentine's card. But he did this for like 3 years. He did this for 3 years.
That's tormenting.
And she didn't twig at all. But they weren't like, they were together for years, but they were really on again, off again. So they'd break up one week, get back together the next week. It was very sort of a crazy relationship, really. So it wasn't out of character. It wasn't out of character for that kind of that kind of relationship they had. But it was just funny. Like, one year he's literally saying to her, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll go out for your birthday, ain't we? Hang on, I just got a phone call to make." It was that kind of scenario. It was almost like my birthday triggered him to remember, I don't want to spend money out on buying her flowers and shit. Sod that.
So
you know?
it probably just broke up with her 3 times a year: Christmas, her birthday, Valentine's Day. So maybe it was just I like her. But I don't want to spend any money on her.
Yeah, so that would make sense, to be honest. But I don't remember birthday and Christmas standing out. I remember Valentine's Day because it being so close to my birthday. So, but yeah, okay. No, I imagine that does sound like something that may well have happened, Max. But it's important to have a plan, I guess. It's important.
A 3-year plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite clearly.
They are no longer together. Millwall Chris.
You shocked me.
Millwall Chris on Twitter at MillwallChris1. He says here, back on Valentine's in the year 2000, my first wife and I had our first official date, even though we had known each other for quite a while. We're still married to this day. I call her my first wife because I'm still waiting for her to change her mind and leave. Oh, wow.
Brilliant. I love that ending though, because you lead you in thinking that there's a reason why they've split up and this is the reason why, and no, he's stuck with her through thick and thin. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Millwall Chris did continue. He sent me a DM as well, Maxie, because he's restricted character-wise as well, I guess, on Twitter. He says here, not really a Valentine story, but I was engaged to a girl and we broke up and she ended up marrying one of my mates. Many years later, they broke up and he ended up working with a few people I knew. One of them asked, how do you know then? How do you know him then? And he used to always reply, I used to sleep with his wife. And then just casually walk away. He left it weeks before he told him the full story.
Wow.
You imagine the gossiping going on. Everyone popping out for a cigarette. Oh, he used to shag his wife.
That's, yeah, the way to get your name around a new workplace, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Steve-O, good friend of the show, at Total Steve-O.
Another quality one.
Strap yourselves in. He says here, blimey. Well, seeing as it is Valentine's Day, I'll give you a story. So, an ex I got her favourite flowers, lilies, and a giant teddy. The irony is, I played with a teddy a lot, and I quote, you wrestle more with that bear than you spend time with me, is what the girl said to him. I guess it was one of the massive, huge sort of person-sized jobs,
I'm picturing it as being a really small one, like
okay,
cuddly cute, and him just booting it around the room, kind of like Zuma and his cat.
Yeah, except the teddy went over. The teddy made him tap out and pinned him every single time. But Steve-O, because he's like tenacious, never gave up, kept going back for another rematch. And this little tiny bear, busting out like the Boston Crab and stuff, got Steve-O tapping out every time. That's how I picture it in my head, anyway.
The perennial jobber, Steve-O.
Yeah, that's it. Getting beaten by a 6-foot-tall teddy. Steve-O continues. That was one of the several reasons she broke up with me a few weeks later.
That line just tickles me, though. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back. There was multiple issues, but this was the one that killed it.
I wonder if she broke up with him because of the wrestling or because he couldn't win.
Yeah, because he was just a jobber.
Yeah, kept getting beat.
He took home the loser's share of the purse, and she was fuming.
Yeah. I want new earrings. Oh, you've lost again. Bloody hell, the teddy's like, made you tap out for like the 4th week running when you're going to learn or something, He said he's mentioned before he's had hundreds of online dating dates. Majority end up going one or two ways. You either A, never see them again, or B, sleep with them that night and never see them again.
Brilliant.
Yeah. See, online dating is something that I've never experienced because obviously the age I'm at, it wasn't really a thing back in the day. And I've been with Sharon now, well, we've been married 10 years this year. So it's not like it's something that sort of crossed over when I would have been out and about, meeting girls. Mm-hmm. And the whole like idea of it, swiping one direction to another based on someone's picture and so on, that sounds horrific to me.
Yeah, just the instant judging of somebody based on looks is just... I know we all do it. We claim that we don't, but we do. But to physically look at a picture and go, munter, and swipe right, I've never, ever done anything in terms of online dating. Me and Mrs. Mags, we'll be married 20 years next year. So
Right.
that has totally passed me by. I mean, I'm from an age where you paid like for an article in a newspaper, the Lonely Hearts column, and it was about £1 a word. So you keep your interactions as brief as possible. Fancy date, ring me, number, father. There you go.
Is that what you did? Is that how you met Mrs. Max?
No. I've never done that. I've never done the Lonely Hearts.
I bet you did.
Absolutely did not. I promise you.
Little round-headed Burnley fellow seeks companion to go to Turf Moor on cold Tuesday nights.
And that's where Jar got the idea. It worked for me 10 years before, and he thought he'd pull it out of the bag.
There you go. Steve-O carries on. I'm sure we'll hear Max
he carries on.
when he's asked his thoughts on this, and it'll be the same as me. Valentine's Day is a load of commercialised bullshit. I'm working in retail, seeing the amount of flowers that don't sell, reducing down to pennies days after, says a lot about what people think of the day. Yep,
he's absolutely right. It's very commercialised. It's always been commercialised. I point blank tell Mrs. Maggs, don't get me anything for Valentine's Day because you don't need a specific day to say, this is the one day I will profess my love to you. I tell her that every day because I'm sweet like that. But I do like, and we mentioned it when we were talking about birthdays and Christmases, I get the joy and the pleasure from seeing other people have smiles on their face and really enjoy themselves. So I'll spoil Mrs. Maggs on Valentine's Day. So I'm almost like, I'm two-faced like that, I suppose. It's a paradox. I hate it for me, but I know she loves it, so I make that compromise.
See, for me, it's a funny one, really, because me and Sharon have never really done Valentine's Day. And we'll get to my previous Valentine's Day with Sharon shortly, but we've never really done it. But in the last few years, I have picked her up a little something, whether it's just a little patch of flower, a bunch of flowers or whatever. And she'd always go, oh, I haven't got you nothing. And I'd be like, haha, I win. You know? This year, we sat there and I said, we're not doing Valentine's, are we? And Sharon went, oh, of course we're not. I come downstairs earlier on to a card, the sneaky bitch. You know?
on Valentine's Day as well, and you're calling her that.
So this year, Sharon won Valentine's. Because it looks like it's rapidly turning into a competition in our house. UTT Rob of the fantastic UTT podcast with our good friend Dan Griffin, his host is there as well. He says he got a laptop today from his missus. So yeah, he says he's winning.
Yeah, and I am always shocked and surprised when I hear of fellow podcasters who don't own a PC. Who do it all by the phone. I mean, a really good example, probably the best example in our group is James from Primetime Conversations, formerly that 90s Wrestling Podcast. All his content he does on his phone. Like all the stuff with the Cafe de Rene stuff, all the interviews, yeah, it's all done by phone. I don't know how he pulls it off, but yeah, I'm always blown away when somebody puts out a content, especially as good as Unbooking the Territory is, on the phone. Yeah, it's shocking, but fair play to him.
No, I got my laptop that Sharon got me for Christmas a couple of years ago. I think it was Christmas or my birthday, a couple of years back, and that's basically everything for me now. That's recording, that's editing, everything's on this laptop. Yeah, so. Yeah, and lastly from the CWF, this is via WhatsApp from Mr. Willis.
There we go.
So he says here, not just one date, but the first two dates. 26th of November, that's my little brother's birthday. 26th of November 2018, 12 minutes past 3. Yes, it is stuck in my head that well. Having matched 2 weeks previous on Tinder. So there you go, to online dating again, isn't it?
Yep, it's a foreign concept to us old fuddy-duddies.
Is Tinder the one, right, where it like literally pings when somebody else who's on Tinder is in the same area as you?
I think you might be thinking of Grindr.
Is that Grindr, is it? Because I'll tell you what, right, if I had that when I was younger, and it just pinged, if there was a lass in the same boozer as me, I'd have been a right whore,
I would love for you to have a Grindr account. You would be just inundated with dates. I guarantee it.
Yeah, but Grindr is for the gay gentleman, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm not
You'd
gay.
be a bear.
I'd be I've been called that before. I called that before. The football club, when we used to run the football club, one of the pubs we operated at was ran by two gay guys. And they used to stop back sometimes and have a drink with us after the game, and they were fantastic people. Loved them. The one guy was massively into his football. The other fella wasn't as much, but he was like more involved in just having a laugh and a joke with the guys and all that sort of stuff. And they both at one point said that I would be referred to as a bear in their circles, and I was a bit like, oh, okay. Then there's Growler. Okay, Matt says in the chat there. I'm not sure about that.
Bear on the loose.
Bear on the. I'm gonna get a t-shirt, man.
So that is your homework for next week.
I got to have a Grindr account.
Open a Grindr account.
I'm not sure that's going to happen. Anyway.
Apparently, Growler is for bears and cubs. I mean, the connotations of that sounds a little iffy.
Yeah, okay, so educate us here, Mr. Willis, whilst you're in the chat. It's a world that I don't fully understand.
Yep.
A bear in the the gay circles, I guess, is a big hairy bloke. So I'm going by that purely because that's what I was referenced as. Is a cub a young hairy kid or something, or like a teenager or something?
Just very hirsute.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm curious.
Scottish Danny and Sharon having a brilliant conversation in the chat. One of Scottish Danny's neighbours is named Tinder, and every day he gets ribbed for it. And Sharon comes back with this glorious message. Scottish Danny, for his pleasure, as in ribbed.
Ribbed for his pleasure. Yeah.
So a cub is somebody who's a bear in training. Okay.
Okay. So they haven't like grown their beard out and stuff yet. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Just can't grow that bit there. This bit
Yeah.
doesn't attach, and it's all
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
spotty. Yeah.
Yeah, mine used to be like that. Secret is not to cut these bits, just let them grow over the top, and no one notices.
If he has a beard shave, he's just got one long moustache that sways in the breeze.
No, that's it, mate. That's it. So this is like actually been trimmed back because I had to go to that interview, didn't I? And then when I got in the interview, the bloke actually mentioned my beard in the interview, and so they got loads of blokes who have massive beards, and I'm thinking, great, I don't need to cut my beard then, did I? Brilliant.
You bastard!
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that in the email?
But there we go. Anyway, back to Matt Willis's story. Having matched 2 weeks previously on Tinder, we did get sidetracked quite easily, don't we? Let's be honest.
We certainly do.
With me even using the super like function, best £5 I ever spent. Again, I don't understand. I'm going to have to do a lot of research into this. I was sitting in our Wetherspoons. Stop it. I was sitting in our Wetherspoons called the Moon and Starfish. I waited maybe 15 minutes.
No! The
lost
Moon
Mags
and
now.
Starfish. Brilliant.
I waited maybe 15 minutes, and then Chris turned up. After we'd made small talk, we started to talk about our common interests, one of which was gaming. As we talked about the games we played growing up, I mentioned that I played F-Zero X on the Super Nintendo. I think I actually remember that game.
That's such a good game.
Yeah, I think I remember that one, Matt. And yeah, it takes a lot for me to remember a game, so it must have been good. It was at that point Chris started to laugh. He told me I was wrong and that I couldn't possibly have done so. I disagreed and said I was definitely right. He then did the exact same thing I would normally to do to prove I was right. He opened up his phone, quickly Googled it and shoved the screen in my face while smirking.
So
at this point,
F-Zero, the original, was on Super Nintendo.
Was it? Okay. It was like the 3D kind of flying space game. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. At this point, I knew I wanted to see him again. He was the perfect match for me. It's because he put you in your place, mate. He beat you at your own game, Matt. It was meant to be, wasn't it?
So Matt's whole point of his relationship with Chris is because Chris has got one up on him, and Matt needs to get his win back.
Yeah, exactly. Bear with me just one sec. I'm going to have to open it up elsewhere because it's over 2 screens.
Wow, Jesus Christ.
Whilst
we're doing that, then we can just go back to the chat. And Dan, great man, think alike, sir. Someone was having a laugh using Moon and Starfish in the same pub name. Exactly why it broke me.
Anyway, Matt says he then added Chris on Facebook, like you do. I started looking through his pictures. So it sounded a bit like a stalker now, Matt.
Yeah.
But anyway, it worked out in the end. So don't worry about it. It worked out.
Did it?
Yeah. He said that he'd seen that his mum had liked some of Chris's pictures. Puzzled, he called her up. Turns out she'd worked with Chris's mum for nearly 20 years. Why? That's insane. And spoke very highly of not just Chris, his mum, but the whole family. And she wasn't wrong. The following Tuesday, we proceeded to our second date, which happened to be in December. And we had the full roast and dessert option. full roast with sprinkling of sand. There we go. I'll have the Sahara milkshake and a handful of sand. Thanks very much. It was a full roast and dessert option. Why am I struggling with that word?
Still nearly got it wrong. Has he spelt it right? 2 S's.
Dessert.
Yeah, so it's you.
Yes. Why can't I say that word? That's not even like a difficult word. Why can't I say dessert?
I don't know, sir.
I just did say it then.
You did.
Yeah. Okay.
You did said it.
I did say it. They had a full roast and dessert option at the local Toby Carvery. Ironically, we live opposite that one now. During the meal, I asked the waiter if the sponge had any fruit in it. Since I already knew Chris didn't like fruit in a sponge, to which the waiter said, I don't know, I didn't cook it. It prompted the two of us to share stories about when we'd worked in kitchens before, and we found out we'd worked at McDonald's at the exact same time, but in neighbouring stores. Oh, okay. I'd even covered shifts in his store and never actually met him. The old butterfly effect. At the end of the evening, we shared our first kiss. We courted for the next 3 months. You courted? What
we
is
courted fucking hell, Matt.
Are you meeting him in 1952?
when you kissed, did your monocle drop?
Until 16th of February 2019, when we became official. So in 2 days' time, we would have been a couple officially for exactly 3 years. That is an absolutely fantastic story, and I'm glad it's the last one we've got from the CWF, but it's a positive one, Mags. I think that is awesome, and I think it's crazy the way that their mums worked together and they crossed paths potentially in McDonald's, but didn't quite meet and so on, and they've ended up together, and obviously both are incredibly happy, and it's meant to be. So absolutely fantastic stuff, mate.
Yeah, it's almost like Sleepless in Seattle. Such a great love story, or more like Sleepless in Clacton, I suppose. But yeah, knowing Matt throughout all this period and getting to know Chris as well, yeah, I've never known two people as loved up as those two. Yeah, they're a match made in heaven, and yeah, I was so happy for the guys.
Yeah, it's great stuff, man. It's great stuff. So, Magsy, have you got anything to add yourself?
No, do you know, I am just a romantic when it comes to giving presents to Mrs. Mags. I used to have a fascination of getting her the biggest cards that you could get. And there's a reason, and if she's listening, soz, but we had a card shop in the middle of Burnley Town Centre that sold huge Valentine's Day cards, but they were always 99p. Like,
okay.
So
that's good.
it was on the cheap. They're actually cheaper than the standard size cards, but they're classy. And I would spend like a couple of hours writing a huge poem or all the reasons why I love her through it, so it was all filled out. Yeah, well, I can lay it on. I can lay it on with a trowel when I need to. But the shop closed, or it switched owners, and you couldn't get the 99p cards anymore. So those kind of got faded out. So what I then did, I started getting flowers delivered to work, and then we've kind of upped the ante since then. We've gone away on weekends away. I took her to Amsterdam a couple of times, and now every year she gets jewellery. So yeah, it cost me an absolute fortune, and I just wish I could go back to those days of a 99p giant card.
I bet you could probably get some of that online, couldn't you? You know, and you'll get away with it because she don't listen to this crap. Yeah.
She actually listens through the walls because she says, "Oh, you were talking about such and such a thing today." And I'm like,
okay.
She's like,
hello, Mrs. Mags.
With a glass up against the wall. They're mentioning me.
Yeah. Hi, Mrs. Mags. Hello. Hope you're well.
Yeah, so I tend to spoil Mrs. Mags, even though I'm not a lover of the whole commercialisation of Valentine's Day. So I'm as two-faced as they come.
Fair enough. One Valentine's Day back in I suppose I would have been a teenager. It ended up being Valentine's Day on the weekend, and we went out for my birthday. And I was sick on my girlfriend at the time.
Brilliant.
Which was
Classy.
enjoyable. So yeah, that stands out as being a Valentine's night that maybe didn't go quite well. Literally just rolled over and went, "Bleh," and out it was there all over.
This is what I think of you.
Yeah. Maybe misjudged how much alcohol I could consume.
I love you.
Happy Valentine's Day. I'm throwing up loads of sand because I had the Sahara Desert dinner.
Who knew you was allergic to sand?
Well, there you go. Me and Sharon's first Valentine's Day, we spent in I think it was the Birmingham NEC, and we watched a triple bill of Testament, Megadeth, and Judas Priest. So I had a great time. I don't know about Sha, but I had a great time.
It was the best Valentine's Day ever.
No, she said at the time she enjoyed Megadeth. Testament were pretty dire, to be fair, but
and he probably proposed as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, I was a serial proposer in my youth, Max.
Just to everyone. I've never met you before. Thanks for delivering my pizza. Want to get married?
No, because that's 30 minutes late and it's cold, isn't it?
But at least you learnt to piss up a robe.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Sharon in the chat. She had so many bruises that day and not the good kind. That's because we were moshing about, wasn't it? You know, Priests are amazing. And Megadeth, I love Megadeth.
No, I dare say you were moshing about. She was getting beat from pillar to post, I think.
Potentially. We haven't been together that long, a few months, I think, maybe.
How have you survived?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know.
She must be a masochist.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Matt Willis in the chat there asking how many times did I propose to Sharon? I don't know, 3 or 4.
And it was like, nah.
The rule was I had to do it sober, so that was always a struggle.
Because he was never sober.
Exactly. And Sharon there in the chat as well saying our first Valentine's Day as a married couple, we're seeing one of her favourite black bands, Black Veil Brides, and that was a good show as well. I was pleasantly surprised by that, even though we felt ancient because we got there and the whole place just smelled of BO and the Monster energy drink, and we realised that the band got a huge fan base in like 15, 16-year-olds.
Oh wow!
So we were just kind of
there's nothing cringier than parents rocking up to a kid's gig.
Well, there were parents there that took the kids.
And
of course, we were there
reading in the corner.
Yeah, we were
doing
there.
A crossword.
They were all stood at the bar, like doing cross stitch, like they're just knitting and stuff.
All with headphones on to drown out that horrific music.
They're all stood at the bar, and then me and Shah go get a drink, and they're sort of going, "Oh yeah, my daughter's over there," and we're like, "Yeah, we're not with any kids. We're here to see the band." Yeah.
I bet you look like. I bet you got some funny looks, like.
Yeah, potentially. It was a good show, though. Really good show. Good.
Glad you enjoyed it. And Matt's saying that he's proposed 5 times. I hope to Chris or to multiple people, Matt. Let us know.
Yeah, definitely. That's it then, mate, I suppose. That's it for all our non-wrestling nonsense. Shall we talk a little bit of graps?
Let's do it. Well, graps is a loose term for this pick, but we will get there.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Okay. So, our link in the chain this week is something that we put up because we were looking for dire wrestling matches. We were looking for... me and Magsy agreed we'd seen a lot of great stuff recently, and part of this show isn't just enjoying great wrestling, it's laughing at the nonsense. So we asked everyone out there to put forward some suggestions for awful times, awful matches, awful segments, anything at all. And then Magsy and I both picked one each. The option I picked from you wonderful lot, which was put forward by our good buddy Chris, wasn't it, Mags? Is that right?
It was. At not BFC Chris _ or whatever his handle is this week.
Yes, it changes quite regular. But his choice I selected to put up on a poll, and you all voted for this to be the winner. So we head back to the October the 2nd, 2000 episode of Monday Nitro. We are in Russo days here. He is going into the show. Actually, Vince Russo is the WCW World Champion. Yes, it's that time. Yes, it's around that time. The main event, the title effectively is vacated by Russo on this show, and the main event ends up being between Booker T and Jeff Jarrett to decide who's going to be the new WCW World Champion. But obviously, you can't have just a wrestling match.
You are cutting out a lot of the intricacies of this storyline there, sir.
Is it that intricate, Mags? Is it?
Well, I mean, first of all, how Russo got hold of the title, that was shocking. This is not my wheelhouse whatsoever. So seeing Russo at the beginning of this show essentially vacate the title, it was, I'm going to have to look back and find out how he got hold of that belt. And he got hold of it by getting his ass whooped in a cage match. And then being speared through the cage before Booker T was able to escape the cage. And able to is very, very loose, because he had about an hour that he could have left that cage. The gate was wide open. He allowed Goldberg into the cage in the first place. It was a ridiculous setup.
It made Booker T look stupid, because Goldberg's music hits, and he is basically, his nose is against the cage. He is that close to the door. You know, if he coughed, the spray's hitting the fence. That's how close he is, right? Goldberg's music hits, he stops and waits and waits and waits, and then lets Goldberg in, and then Goldberg spears Russo through the cage to the outside, and Russo wins the title. And
then Booker and Goldberg essentially hug, all like half-hour each other about it. It's ridiculous booking.
Yeah.
But we get to the week after, and Russo is saying he knows he's not a wrestler. He's vacating the title. And then Goldberg wants to beat the living piss out of him. I didn't delve into why, and I don't intend to. So he leaves, leaving above-average Mark Sanders in charge. Brilliant. With Jeremy Borash as like the spy in the background. There is a lot of kind of vying for Mark Sanders to make some decisions. Kevin Nash is annoying him quite a lot all throughout the show. But we have Jarrett and Steiner as a tag team for some reason. Who knows? And then we have Booker and Sting aligned, and Mark Sanders, being the Vince Russo wannabe that he is, decides he's going to split those teams, have them partner up with each other, and the winners of a tag team match between those two teams will then face each other for the vacated title at the end of the show. So we end up with Steiner and Sting teaming up against Booker and Jarrett, and Booker and Jarrett end up facing off in what can only be called a dog shit match.
Yes, it was called a San Francisco 49ers match was the name of the stipulation, wasn't it?
For the only link was, I'm sure, that was the show from San Francisco. It was in the Cow Palace, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Which, ironically, they had packed out 2 years before to the rafters, and then the year before that, they almost packed it out. And on this show, which was a weekly taping, so the price of the tickets were cheaper than pay-per-view, they only had 2,000 fans, and most of them were paper tickets. So yeah, this was the death knells of WCW, and this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah, definitely. I think Russo gets a bad rap. Okay, I'm going to throw this out there now, just to get it out of the way, because I am also going to end up slagging him off at some point as well. But I think Russo gets a bad rap. Everyone remembers the horrible ideas or the things that didn't work or whatever. Russo has also done a great deal of positive in the wrestling business to me. He was in charge, he was booking it with TNA for a long time, when TNA did some brilliant stuff, some great television. and Russo was heavily involved in all of that. Some of his WCW stuff was all right, It's not. People always look back at the end of WCW and think, "Oh man, that's shockingly bad." There's a spell that is shockingly bad, of course there is, but it picks up before it actually goes out of business. And part of that is under Russo's reign. It does actually pick up towards, before he actually leaves, and then the company goes on and, eventually goes out of business in 2001. And obviously he was involved in some brilliant stuff for the WWF. People saying, oh, it's he needed a filter, he needed this, he needed that, whatever. He was involved. He had ideas, and you listen to Russo now, he's almost become a caricature of himself, I guess, when you listen to him on podcasts or interviews. But there's there's almost like a weird likability to him, because he sells himself as this kind of underdog or this victim quite often. And sometimes if you listen to him enough, you kind of fall into that trap. But on the other side of the coin,
I don't think it's a trap. I think he makes a lot of salient points. He is a caricature. Don't get me wrong. He certainly does embellish a lot, and he does paint himself as a perennial victim. But I do think he gets an unfair hard time. And as Matt has said in the chat, the numbers don't lie. That Russo either stabilised the rating or increased it when he was in charge. Yeah. And yes, there was a lot of shit thrown at the wall. I get that. We have made essentially a podcast built on laughing at a lot of Russo's ridiculous ideas. But what people don't take into account is the amount of people he had to deal with when he was in charge at WCW. The amount of big egos that he had to fend with. In WWF, yes, he had that filter with Vince McMahon, but Vince kind of has always ruled with an iron fist. So there was never that kind of that backstage politicking as there was in WCW 2000. That must have been so hard work to deal with, keeping all those people happy, juggling all those balls, and then having to write entertaining TV. Yeah, I can see why he struggled to make coherent TV. But we're talking about it 20 years later, and it's as bad as the wrestling is and as how nonsensical it is, it's still fun to watch. You still enjoy watching it.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned about the egos in WCW as well. I think you're spot on. He had loads of nonsense to deal with Hogan. Nash is hanging around, and he's notorious for being difficult, isn't he? Mm-hmm. And then even an idea that I think could have been really, really good if it was allowed to run, if it had the legs to just keep going. The whole reboot thing, which seemed daft initially, resetting the company and stripping everyone of the belts, but that sort of thing doesn't just become a success overnight. It needs that longevity to the storytelling to get into why that first point of contact with that storyline would work, but you wouldn't find out until later on. But by that point, he had Bischoff hanging around behind him again as well. Yeah. And it must have been an incredibly difficult work environment. I firmly believe Vince Russo doesn't help himself. I firmly believe that he can be equally difficult to deal with. You hear stories all the time about how he can fly off the handle a little bit. Potentially, he maybe has a little issue controlling his temper sometimes, and with those pressures, put on him, I guess that would be understandable on certain occasions. Yeah, but apparently he's also a little bit dishonest. He tells one person one thing, somebody else something else from stories you hear. But again, this is the wrestling business. Isn't everyone like that?
Yeah, and you've also got to remember he wasn't just writing Nitro. He was also lumbered with writing Thunder as well. And then all the pay-per-views. And Thunder was just thrown at him. He was adamant that, no, we don't want this. We're struggling to write 2 hours, 3 hours of Nitro now. We don't want that extra show. But it was essentially on him and Ferrara to book essentially 6 hours of TV a week. So, yeah.
Thunder was a bit earlier, wasn't it? I think Thunder killed off Bischoff, didn't it? Or contributed to killing off Bischoff's era in WCW first time round because of the Thunder show coming in. But the issue they have on some aspects with Thunder as well is some of these guys had a certain number of dates they had to fulfill.
Yeah.
So if they wrestled on Thunder, their dates would disappear quicker. So you weren't getting some of the, towards the later time in WCW, you had guys who, like your National, all that sort of stuff, who wouldn't appear on Thunder because you'd want to save their dates for the pay-per-views
show,
or yeah. So then,
So it's
so you're booking a show that's not getting the ratings because the big names aren't on it.
But you can't put the big names on it
because it's going to affect something out. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, you hear people all the time. And I hate this statement, but you see it and you read it all the time. People go, "That's what killed WCW," and they pinpoint one thing: hiring Vince Russo. That's what killed WCW. Or they go, "The finger point of doom. That's what killed Vince Russo." That killed Vince. That's what killed WCW. The Thursday Night Thunder. That's what killed WCW. And they pinpoint one thing and say that's what actually did it. There's a butterfly effect from there, and that's what did it. It's not one thing. It's a collection of so many different things.
So many bad decisions, yeah.
Over several years that eventually totally caught up with the company and just rotted it from the inside, effectively. You can't pinpoint 1, 2, or 3 things without branching off from that and discussing more and more of those things.
Yeah.
Because everything went hand in hand with something else that was equally as part of the downfall of the company.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of the time, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. WCW was used as almost as a money laundering outfit because they were making huge amounts of profit, which was then being passed through other struggling areas of Turner, which made WCW look like they were hemorrhaging money when that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a crazy time and just so much going on that was just insane. But that's why I find WCW, right from Jim Crockett promotion days, NWA, through WCW, through the Nitro era and to the end and so on. I find that whole company so fascinating because there were so many different eras of bad management which led into another era, and then the story of how it went from Jim Crockett promotions into WCW, Turner getting involved. Absolutely fascinating tale. And as Scottish Danny says in the chat there, yes, we will be looking at it all with Nitro Nights, me and Scottish Danny, every week looking back at a new episode of WCW, Nitro, Thunder, whatever. It's going to be great.
And Dan saying that he knows if you need any rating stats, he knows a guy with a spreadsheet who may have recently picked up a new laptop so he can email it to you.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Yeah, that'd be lovely. I'll look out for that. Magsy, should we get to the match then?
Yeah, I mean, we have to. It's the point of the show.
I think the concept of the match, the idea of the match, is actually not that bad an idea in principle.
It's a well-used Vince Russo trope now, a meme of things on poles. It's just I agree with you. I think the idea, it's very similar to the Feast or Fried idea that TNA used later on.
Yeah.
But that idea worked because they kind of... They at least trialed it. This didn't work because the setup to it was horrific, and we will definitely get to why. It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and basically the principle of the match is there's a pole on each corner, and on the top of each pole is a box. Well, not even on the top, really.
It's hanging from. The poles are essentially L-shaped. They go behind the ring post and then come essentially to hang a chain over the post, and the chain is connected to a wooden box. Yeah,
that's right. And it kind of hangs down. I suppose if you've not seen it, if you picture a wrestler stood on the top rope, it would be kind of, I suppose, chest level-ish, Magsy, would that be right to say?
Maybe just a little bit higher, because when Booker goes for one of them, it kind of sways a little bit. So it's around, I'd say, neck, maybe head, heart. So they're well within reach for that wrestler to be able to pull down. But they don't really need to.
No, that's something we're going to come to in a moment. The idea is that each box has something in it. One of them is the World Heavyweight Championship, and whoever finds the world title is the champion.
Yep.
Simple as that, Magsy, isn't it? And then there's other things that people could use as weapons. It's sold on the show, isn't it?
I mean, is there?
Is there?
Is there?
I mean, we get to the first box very early, don't we? I mean, let's be honest. We start off.
It's so bad.
It's terrible.
So we get a little bit of grappling, I suppose, an attempt at grappling. Then we get I think it's Booker T ends up getting whipped into the corner or whipped against the ropes. And the box just falls on the floor, just comes away from the chain and falls on the floor. Brilliant start to this amazing gimmick.
Now that, to me, like I said, to me, it seems like we opened the first box very early in the match. Makes me wonder,
I mean, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think you had this match, and I've got to give props to Booker and Jeff. You can tell they knew that this was going sideways from the very first minute, and they at least made it entertaining to watch because this fucks up royally very, very quickly.
Yeah. Well, the first box falls. Jarrett jumps out the ring, grabs the box, breaks it up a little bit to take out the supposed weapon that is hiding in the box that the wrestlers can use, or maybe even the world title. You know, can you imagine that if he sent him into the other corner and the world title fell out that quick? And it was just over. The match was done then.
I mean, it'd be a damp squib of a match. You would think that at least, I mean, I can't promise it happened, but you would think they would have at least told them which box had the title in. Surely.
Yeah, you think so. Yeah, but if it just fell down by accident and the match was over, that'd just be like...
just, fuck it, I'm going, bye-bye.
Yeah, that's it. I've earned my check this week, I'm going on. Yeah, well, it's not the title anyway. It's not the world title in the first box. It's an inflatable doll.
It is. I mean,
that well-known wrestling weapon.
We've actually missed one of the funniest parts of the whole match for me, when Booker T takes his t-shirt off and gives it to a lovely elderly woman in the crowd, and Jeff Jarrett comes and threatens to give her a backhand, and she starts whipping him with the t-shirt. If you've ever seen the Secrets of Wrestling documentaries, she is the stunt granny. She's the perfect stunt granny. It's brilliant.
Fantastic. I love stuff like that, man. Like when Hogan was like just out of reach for that old lady who was trying to punch him when he turned into the joined the NWO. It's just great stuff, mate. Great stuff. The second, I mean, not a lot goes on early on other than opening a couple of boxes, Mags, really, does it? Mm-hmm. The second box gets opened quite quickly.
It is, and that the shock on Booker's face when he opens the box. I think this is no, this isn't the box that he actually struggles opening with. This one is he actually opens it pretty fine, but he opens it up and he finds inside a picture of Scott Hall.
Yeah,
I mean, at least he can use this one as a weapon, though.
Yeah, he levers into it, doesn't he?
He gets to slam Jarrett with the picture, but yeah, not going well so far. 0-2 in these boxes.
Yeah, we then get a bit of action on the outside of the ring, don't we? They're fighting around the outside of the ring. I love the crash mats in this era with WCW as well. The flames on, I reckon that always looked really striking, looked really cool. There's a pile driver on the announce table as well, Magsy. That sort of.
And that is a Japanese announce table because
that didn't sell it.
It didn't move. You just could have just wiped the scratch off. It was absolutely fine. But it leads to Jarrett being essentially behind the announce table, just casually having a drink of water, as you do when you've just had your brains caved in through a wooden table. The first thing you need is a good old slug of water. And whilst he's doing that, Booker goes for this third box. Struggles to grab it a little bit. It starts swaying in the breeze, I suppose. And he essentially just punches the box open because he knows that this is bullshit has gone sideways. And inside this box is the closest to a weapon that we've had so far. It's announced as a pair of coal miner's gloves, but it's actually just one.
Yeah.
One solitary coal miner's glove. Now, I have never got the concept of a coal miner's glove match because they are cushioned. They will hurt less than hitting somebody with a fist.
The coal miner's glove on the outside of it is supposed to be like chainmail and metal and stuff, isn't it? And the inside is like soft and so on. But this coal miner's glove looked like an oven
glove. It was an oven glove. Yeah.
It looked like it looked like Booker's about to go take a really hot lasagna from the middle
He's warming up that pizza that arrived 30 minutes late. He's had to warm it in the oven, and he's got the oven glove.
Yeah, so he puts on this grey and almost somewhat sparkly, in a way, oven mitt. He's going to throw a few punches. Jeff Jarrett gets hold of it, and we get a little bit of invention here from Jarrett as well, don't we? He's trying to use like the broken parts of the box as a weapon and so on, which is quite good. He uses the glove a bit, and he just basically goes around beating Booker T up for a period. And then we get a sleeper spot.
Yeah, we do.
With Double J putting the sleeper on Booker T. He's in the sleeper for a little while, and we get the standard, I suppose. In my mind, I always think it back to Hulk Hogan, even though it's done before him and done by other people. But when they're lifting up the arm and letting the arm drop, and on the third one, the finger comes up, oh no, I'm not done, and everyone cheers and so on. I always think of that back to Hulk Hogan. But in this situation, why are they doing that? You can they've stated on commentary over and over again, you can only win the match by finding the title. So what happens if his arm drops the third time?
I mean, yeah, counting for the knockout wouldn't make sense at all. But again, we're talking about 2000 WCW. One thing that we do get though is that the crowd are massively in Booker T's favour, and you can hear when he's in the sleeper, the crowd are trying to hype him up. And Mark Madden, God love him, he's saying that this crowd is cheering for Jeff Jarrett. On no level at all did anybody in this crowd cheer for Jeff Jarrett. So, yeah, great selling by Mark Madden on commentary, though.
Yeah, I think he's quite underrated. Whenever I look back on these old Nitros or these old pay-per-views from this era, he does make me laugh.
Yeah, and when we get the pile driver spot, he's energetic in telling Jeff, go on, Jeff, pile drive him through the table, get him, Jeff, get him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We get a big crowd reaction because Booker T hits the bookend, which is, I suppose, his version of the rock bottom. Mm-hmm. Double J then somehow, I don't know if I missed something here, but he hits the bookend, but we end up with Jeff Jarrett being the one who gets out the ring and starts ferreting around under the ring, trying to get a guitar out, whereas Booker lies down in the ring.
So is this where Booker does the spinneroonie, then goes for the axe kick? The referee gets in the way, as referees do, and then I'm sure, did we get a low blow? I think we got a low blow.
Yes, okay.
And then Jarrett went out to go and retrieve his guitar, can't find it, or isn't able to grab it, pull it out. He then, for some reason, thinks, yeah, fuck it, I don't need the guitar, and out pops his friend, well, former friend, now mortal enemy, Beetlejuice from the Howard Stern Whack Pack. So for those who don't know, essentially the Whack Pack was a group of freaks, as they were called then, kind of in the same vein as the Oddities in WWF, but you had Howard the Angry, I think it was called Howard the Angry Dwarf, or Alan the Angry Dwarf. You had Crackhead Bill, or Crackhead Bob. Essentially, it felt cringy watching these guys be mocked, because there's clearly some severe physical and mental health problems with these guys. Beetlejuice is actually a black little person, clearly got a lot of health issues, but on the weeks previous he'd been levelled with a guitar by Jarrett because he called him Slapnuts.
Oh, was he ever? Have you seen that guitar shot?
Oh,
my God! I imagine because the guy is shorter, it gives Jarrett more room to swing the guitar, because he nearly kills him.
He catches him as well. Not even on the safe way would be to catch the guitar full on the head, so your head's going through the thin piece of wood. He catches Beetlejuice with the edge of the guitar. He proper wellies him. But anyway, Beetlejuice is out for some recompense. He punches, and this is the best most sold nutshot in the world because he legitimately punches Jarrett in the bollocks. He punches him twice in the bollocks, and then the third time he essentially fists him in the ass. Literally fist right up. You cannot see the guy's knuckles, which means that Jarrett goes down. He ends up leaving the ring. Beetlejuice crossbodies him, which is absolutely superb, which leaves Booker to be able to get that last box. And he gets it, and just typical of WCW at this time, the belt, which is clearly in that box, it's the last box, the belt falls on the fucking floor from the box. Just falls
the box
on the
just
floor.
kind of opens.
Yeah, it just collapses. Booker has to then essentially leave the ring to pick up the belt. Just it's daft, absolutely daft. And then in the post match, he gets battered by Scott Steiner with a lead pipe. Brilliant.
Yeah, and that's basically it. They go off the air, and apparently next week they're broadcasting Nitro from Australia, which, as we found out the other week, is a made-up place. So, yeah, that kind of concludes the whole craziness, doesn't it, really? A crazy couple of weeks in WCW, but a crazy main event as well, a crazy world title picture and world title match. Magsy, I suppose we come to the time when we've got to rate it out of 10. What are your thoughts here?
As a wrestling match, this is among the worst we've ever watched. I'm tempted for a 0. I'm
that bad?
Really tempted, but the ridiculousness and the calamity made it entertaining. And seeing Jeff Jarrett getting punched in the baby makers legitimately is fun. That's hilarious. So it's got some entertainment value, but not a lot. So I'm going to go for a 2.
A 2, okay. See, I look back at my other scores, and the one that this makes me think of is the very, very first episode of Chain Wrestling, when it was a similar sort of time, and we had Booker T against Scott Steiner in a straight jacket steel cage match, another ridiculous, crazy stipulation for a title match. I gave that a 5, as I think you did as well, Magsy. Obviously, we're a year and a half or whatever it is further into the show now, so the ratings are slightly different. We're looking at we're more accustomed to what we're doing. I think maybe I rated that match high because
I regret giving it a 5.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit it maybe, because I enjoyed this more than that straight jacket steel cage match, but this is not a 5.
No.
So I'm contradicting myself. But I think I enjoyed this more than Undertaker versus Yokozuna, a lot more, and I gave that a 1.5.
Okay.
I think I could probably stretch to a 2.5, 3 maybe.
Okay.
Because I think Booker T and Jarrett, as you said several times, Booker T and Jarrett know this is a shit show. They know this has just gone completely sideways. It's gone completely pear-shaped. And they actually do quite a bit to try and make it work.
Yeah.
And they don't succeed in any way, shape, or form. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, their effort, you've got to be, you've got to praise to a degree. So I think, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Magsy. I'm going to give it a 3. There we go.
Okay, that's fair. I give it a 2 for a point for each of their work.
Fair enough.
But for everything else, a 0. If it was Dave Meltzer, it would be -5 stars.
So there we go. We've had some ropey wrestling to watch this week. Where do we go next week? Where do we go? Is it going to be good wrestling, more ropey wrestling, something that we haven't seen before? Who knows? Well, you will know in just a couple of minutes. We're going to give our options, and you will decide on Twitter. So, Magsy, where would you like to take us this week?
Okay, so I've got several links to the next match. So,
okay,
the next match that I want to visit is WCW. It's WCW 2000. It's Booker T. And it's Jeff Jarrett.
Okay.
I want to go to Bash at the Beach 2000.
Oh.
And I again want to break the rules of chain wrestling because I actually want to cover 2 matches. I want to cover Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Jeff Jarrett, and then on the same show, Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett, both matches for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you what, I would love to talk about that whole thing.
And we will, if it gets picked, we will cover the post match promo by one Vince Russo.
Yeah, for those who are unaware, honestly, go and check out the story behind Bash at the Beach 2000 in WCW. Bischoff was back on the scene looking after Hogan specifically. Russo was still booking. They changed. Hogan played his creative control card. Apparently, they changed the outcome of a match. Vince Russo didn't like it, then changed the script again after Hogan had already left the building, and all this sort of stuff. There's big arguments. Hogan apparently cuts a shoot promo in the ring live on pay-per-view. How much of that is true, we can look into.
Well,
this is a fascinating event, because you're literally on screen. You have paid your pay-per-view rate to watch a company unravel.
Yeah, and according to Vince Russo, this was all scripted. This whole idea was right, how he planned it, but he said the difference was he didn't ring Hogan the day after like he promised. But we will get into the nitty and the gritty of that if it wins the poll.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. My link, Magsy, also involves the glorious former mulleted Jeff Jarrett. I thought we've looked at one or two Jeff Jarrett matches, but we've not done a great deal. For someone who's had such a long career, USWA champion, God knows how many times, WCW runs, WWF runs, then WWE, and all this sort of stuff. I thought, well, he was also really important in the startup and early days, and effectively then running for many years of TNA, which is now obviously Impact Wrestling.
Okay.
And we mentioned the other week, didn't we? We've not seen enough from TNA, stroke Impact, stroke GWF, or whatever the bloody hell it was called, for about 3 weeks once upon a time. So I started thinking, I'll look at Jeff Jarrett matches in TNA, which is the best Jeff Jarrett match from TNA. So I started having a little look at different articles people have written, and one match kept popping up. And once I'd seen this match as an option, I couldn't really ignore it. And it's going way back in TNA time, so quite early days of 2005. And I would like to watch Jeff Jarrett in the middle of what people refer to as his reign of terror, because it coincided with Triple H's reign of terror on the other channel, where it felt like the same way Triple H was in theory politicking himself to keep the belt. Jarrett had a similar feel to him around this time as well, but he's actually dethroned by a TNA original, as they call them, in a very young looking AJ Styles at TNA Hard Justice in 2005. A very excitable crowd, a incredibly talented AJ Styles, one of the first times I'd seen AJ Styles wrestle, and a guy everyone wanted to see lose the belt. So that is my option, my friend. I'd like to go to the NWA World Title match for the main event of TNA Hard Justice 2005. Jeff Jarrett against AJ Styles.
A great pick. I mean, I am biased. I do want to delve into the Bash of at the Beach 2000 lore, but
I'd love to have a conversation about that as well. I really would.
Getting to see AJ Styles even before his peak and just how good he was back then, and like you said, Jeff Jarrett, who hasn't got the best reputation in the wrestling business. Dan Griffin is certainly not a fan, but knew what was right for business at the time and sent the fans home happy. So yeah, I'll be happy with either of those picks.
And either of those picks are Bash at the Beach 2000, Hogan, stroke Jarrett, stroke Booker T, stroke Jarrett, etc., and all the shenanigans and going on there. We'll just probably put that up as Bash at the Beach 2000 as the name of the option, because we're going to be covering so much more around that event if it wins. Or TNA Hard Justice 2005, Jeff Jarrett versus AJ Styles for the NWA World Title. That will be up on our Twitter, sort of Wednesday, Thursday time, after the audio version of the show is out for you all to listen to. Maxie, I suppose that kind of concludes our wonderful chat this evening. I hope everyone's had a great time. Before we go, can you let everyone know whereabouts they can find you, my friend?
Yep, and I've had a great time as always, and quite clearly the CWF have. Again, we always massively appreciate your support. This show, without your input, would be essentially two middle-aged men shouting in the ether. So yeah, we will absolutely love you for that. But I will be back in around 10 minutes or so on this very channel, so stick around. We'll be covering the Premier League action with Matt Willis on the volley. But if you want to hear more of my dulcet tones, first of all, come and follow me down here on the Twitters at PodFatherMags. I'm also on that crazy TikTok thing that Sar keeps pushing. I think I'm called Mags All Pods on there. I don't know, can't be sure. So just search me and I'm sure you'll find me. And in terms of content, I'm all over the shop here on Radio Tekkers, over on the Chair Shot, involved with Visionaries Global Media. Yeah, wherever you can get a podcast, you will hear my voice.
There we go. A change in attitude as well, Magsy, the other week. I listened to that.
That's a show I do.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry for
that. No, I went to a job interview the other day. I got the job. Fantastic. I start Monday. Awesome.
And it's all a change in attitude's fault.
But it meant that I can have a listen to podcasts on the way to and from my interview. Cool. And I'm going to be catching up on podcasts again properly because I'll be catching the bus to and from work every day. So that's fantastic. That's awesome. Change in attitude I listened to. I caught up. And you referred to me as just someone else I do a show with. And when these people, your fantastic co-hosts there, Tanner, Danny, and Ori, I'm not sure Ori was there this week, but Ori is fantastic as well, responded with, "Oh, come on, Si's great." You said Si can eat a big bag of dicks.
Did I?
Yes.
That doesn't sound like it was me. That went wrong in the editing, I think.
Okay. That was put in by somebody else doing a Burnley accent.
Well, no, I also do the editing. I may have said them things, so I can't remember.
Okay. Well, there we go. It's a great show anyway. I love a change in attitude.
Apart from the personal insults.
Yeah, apart from when I get, dragged over the coals at the end of the episode, yeah. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter at SJP Words. You can find my group, I guess is the right term, on Facebook, SJP All the Shows and Info. And via those, the Twitter and the Facebook, you can find the links to all the relevant accounts for Chain Wrestling, the SJP podcast, Waiting Room podcast, the Quantum Leap show, which coming back very, very soon. Danny and I are setting up recording. Sorry, Danny. Benny and I are setting up recording times.
Got too many podcast wives in the fires.
I'll be honest with you. I got one show that comes out Tuesday, one show that comes out Thursday. I got them the wrong way around this week and nearly released Nitro Nights on the day that was supposed to be the Doctor Who pod because I got confused. Anyway. At SJP Words on Twitter. SJP, all the shows and info on Facebook. There you will find links to the Doctor Who pod I do with Danny. The Waiting Room, Quantum Leap podcast, coming back very soon for season 2 with Benny Mac. The Nitro Nights podcast, looking at WCW week after week with the other Danny. And anything else I may be involved in. Make sure you check us a follow there. Stick around for the volley in a few minutes with Magsy, Matt Willis, and whoever else you may have joining you this week to discuss all the Premier League action, all the football information, chat and gossip you may wish to hear. It is a fantastic show, very informative, brilliant look back on the week of football. I'm in the chat getting dragged now. My name is Dan, says Dan Griffin. You do Nitro Nights with Danny, you pod slag. Yes, I am a pod slag. Dan, I apologise. I referred to both of you as Danny there. It's my error. I am sorry. Anyway, most importantly, you can find this show at Chain_Wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy. Mags, I'm off now to try and find a Ding Dongs t-shirt on eBay. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Let's get